time, I'd like to call the National Board of Education to order, Administrative Service and Operations Committee meeting. I turn the meeting over to Dr. Ellis.
So before we start, I was going to kind of explain how we've got this committee set up. So first, today we're going to have the administrative services. And what we did was we just combined those committees together that have basically three departments of administrative services, student services, and instruction. So you'll see in your committee format of which one you belong. All we did was just push them all together. That's why you're on a certain committee. The committee chairs were already established based on the last format. So today we've got administrative services that will be led by Mr. Sharp. And you've got items that we're going to go over. The committee members are the ones that would vote. And then we would share it to the whole board in open session. All right, Mr. Sharp.
Morning. Good afternoon, everybody. So first of all, we want to start out with the Hopes and Dreams, the focus group. That's going to be led by Dr. Carolina.
Good evening. I guess committee chair, Sharp, and members of the Administrative Services and Operations Committee. We are going to quickly go through some questions that we have been meeting with various focus groups throughout the district. We've met with a team of principals and assistant principals, teachers, parents. We'll be talking with some students, and the whole objective of doing this is to get some input from all of our stakeholders to inform a revision to our strategic, or to our Nash County Public Schools mission, vision, and core values. And so this is the first step in that process to just gather feedback from everyone as we go through the process of drafting those things. So we are going to quickly go through these questions. I did email them to you in advance. So you've got some choices. You can unmute, and this is for the full board. We'd like anybody, not just committee members, to share their responses to these questions too. So we'll go through the questions. If you feel compelled to type into the chat box your responses or to email them to me separately, that will work as well. But we're just trying to get some general ideas about the direction that Nash County Public Schools is going to take over the next 5 years. And again, this is part of our 5-year strategic planning process that began this year, and that Dr. Ellis has led the whole conversation around data and goals for the next 5 years. So this is part of that process. I'm going to skip through some of these here. So the first question, what is your dream or vision for our school system? And again, anyone can unmute and share your thoughts on what your dream or vision for Nash County Public Schools is. Right. What is your dream or vision for Nash County Public Schools?
So you're looking for responses tonight?
I am. And again, you can send them to me separately if you want.
Yeah, I think that might be more conducive.
That's up to y'all. We just did it with every other group. We felt like it was best now to present it to the board so you all would see what we were doing. So we can easily just go through this slideshow and tell you some of the questions that we've had and go from there.
There's a chat.
Okay.
response. I'll put it on the board too.
Okay. Ms. Washington's vision is to support equity and resources and a quality instruction for all students. We'll go through, and if anyone feels compelled to type into the chat or to unmute, then you can do that. If not, then we'll just go through it and you can email your responses to me. What would you like to see change in Nash County Public Schools? What are some things that you would like to see change? Can you keep the chat up, Jermaine, so we can...
One of the things that I would like to say is I would like for us to come up with an initiative where we could be transparent and have a more forceful initiative that would address our low performing status. I think it's long past time for us to be in such a predicament. And I would love to see energy be transparent and we move towards that. Because to answer your first question, and for some reason I couldn't unmute my phone fast enough before you moved on, but I would like to say that my thought for what I would like to see in this district, if I may go back to that first question.
Absolutely.
Is to say that when a student graduates from Nash County Public Schools, I would like that student to be prepared to enter the either workforce or to go on to higher education and be prepared and not have to go into remedial classes before they can actually begin their college level courses.
Thank you. Do we have any other people who would like to share either the first question? Jermaine, can you click on the slide so I can? Okay, thank you. What is your vision for or dream for our school system, or what would you like to see change? Anyone else? Okay, we'll go on to the third question, which is what kind of school system do we want to create? What kind of school system do we want to create? And I do think, Ms. Bullock, some of what you shared kind of speaks to that.
I think what would be interesting is to see what your feedback from the community, what type of information that they shared with you.
Mm-hmm.
So the board could probably look at some of those things and maybe have comments to that. I think from a perspective as far as asking the board to actually give me your feedback now, I think it's a thoughtful question that if you had some type of input for what your community is saying, then you can piggyback off of some of that instead of just deep diving.
Right, I got you. And we do have the data that we'll have broken out for you and come back when we get to that visioning where we actually pull this in and start creating the vision. But Dr. Ellis just wanted to give you an opportunity to share not your community's feedback, but yours personally. So yeah, we'll definitely get that. Okay, we'll go on to the next. What do you see as the Nash County Public School System's major challenges?
I think Ms. Bullock elaborated on that quite extensively when it comes to low performance. How do we, and I think LaShonda Washington also talked about equity of distribution among the schools? How do we create that? Because no two schools are alike. It's just like individual snowflakes. Everybody a little bit different. So how are you looking at? I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
No, it was hard to hear you there for a minute.
I think you have to get closer to the, yeah, there you go.
Is that better, Rod? Is that better?
It's better, yes.
Okay, thank you. Now I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I couldn't get unmuted fast enough, but yeah, it's much better.
Okay, thank you. So, so we're, as LaShonda and Ms. Bullock stated, distribution as well as how do we go out making sure that we're ensuring our kids pulling our school system on low performance. Those are some challenges I think that we need to focus on. I think as we focus on those, we'll see some of the other things begin to fall in place as well.
We do have a
Dr.
couple
Kell.
other responses. More intense teacher development and community resources was in the chat. Did someone else have something to share about major challenges?
Dr. Catalano, I was just going to say, and I think it's just restating what Bill and Evelyn have probably already said. I think we do very well kind of with our high achieving students. I think we do very well with our EC and some of the programs that help our less fortunate, but it leaves a huge kind of chunk in the middle. And what is the challenge is to challenge that child, challenge that student, and to bring them up and to make sure, like Ms. Bullock said, that when they leave our system, that they're either headed for secondary education or they're headed into the workforce, but either way, they're equipped at that time. And no, not every kid is probably going to go to college, but every kid, you know, deserves to be challenged and deserves to, I guess, the opportunity to improve themselves and better themselves going forward. So if you kind of look at it in blocks, I think we've got a huge piece of our population that does kind of maybe not fall through the cracks, but, you know, does kind of get moved through our system and how to offer them a better quality of life through that.
Absolutely.
To piggyback off what of Mr. Dunn saying, I think we have several gaps, achievement gaps. We can go on. And I think that a lot of students do slip through those cracks, whether they are high achieving, lots of different socioeconomics levels. All this is what I see teaching high school and seeing students who are performing well, but don't have that guidance, don't have that exposure. And I think that's another thing that we need to increase is exposure for our students, because we want them to enter the workforce, but do we have internships available? Do we have these partnerships with local businesses? And I know that there are some, but I would like to see more.
Thank you.
I think what Sharonda's talking about, if I may address that, I think the CTE group does an outstanding job with, as well as the group that Mr. Silver's serving on, as far as bringing businesses into our institutions as well as getting our students out into the private sector to see what business is like and how that's developed and developing our kids to know what the expectations are leaving education and going into the workforce.
Okay, our next question. What do you see as the school system's major strengths and assets?
I'll jump in on that one.
Absolutely.
I think, Mr. Jermaine, can you drop that off for me, please, so I can see that? Thank you. I think one of the things that school system major assets is the CTE program. And that the program that we have over at Rockmont Middle School with the career and objective, as well as working with our local community colleges. I think those are tremendous strengths that we're focusing on. I think we need to focus on a little bit more to help develop and create those. And I think we were talking about getting businesses engaged with the system as well. So how that we look back, how can we meet their needs, what their criteria might be.
Anyone else like to share strengths and assets?
I think our facilities are a strong asset.
Thank you.
I think a strength, and maybe you look at this as a disadvantage, but we do not put out a cookie cutter student. I mean, we cover so many different areas, so many different demographics, so many different parts of Nash and Edgecombe County. I mean, I think it is a strength of our system that we are able to, go into those neighborhoods, go into those rural communities and have an impact. And how do you build on that? I'm not 100% sure, other than just to say, I think, I know we probably, I think LaShonda mentioned equity of our resources across the district, and that's probably very true in needing to bolster that a little bit. But I do think we serve so many different students that it's a strength in our system to be able to say we have the capabilities to do that.
Thank you.
I think the strength of any institution, well-organized institution, is its people. The folks that we have everyday active, I think Mr. Lamb alluded to the facility side, our teachers, our custodials, our cafeteria work. One of the biggest assets you're gonna have is resources, your human resource. They're the ones, and I think you asked the question earlier, Mike, allude to some of this. What do we need to do to help grow our system is develop improvement to help grow and develop our resources, being our human resource folks.
Thank you. Our next question, what do you think should be the purpose of Nash County Public Schools? So what is our ultimate purpose? Why do we exist?
Not everybody at once. I think, go ahead, Ms. Boo.
I would just say, I think the purpose of our school system should be to educate each of our students so that they can be a functioning member of society once they graduate from our school. And by functioning, I mean ultimately being able to provide resources for our student and his future family. I think we need to be preparing our students so that they can take care of themselves, as it were, once they leave high school.
Thank you. We did have two responses in the chat as well: to provide a quality education for all students and to provide quality, equitable, and multidimensional education for a diverse community.
Dr. Catalano,
Yes, go ahead.
I'll just say to provide opportunity. I mean, it just looks so different from every single student, what that opportunity needs to look like. But as a school system, we have to, find that, challenge that, and track that kid for that opportunity, whatever it is.
Can you hear me, Ms. Catalano?
Yes.
This is Ray G. Silver. I think probably one of the most important things that we can do is to find out where each student is and what their plans and goals are, if they have any, and to embrace the students where they are and present opportunities to them where they can reach those opportunities. I like what Mr. Shop said earlier. Yes, I do serve on the Strategic Educational Partnership. That's the partnership between the two school systems with Edgecombe and Nash counties, as well as Edgecombe County Community College, as well as Nash Community College. So we're trying to prepare students that can take these jobs locally that's coming to Edgecombe County and Nash County. We're trying to prepare those students. And that's why it's so important that we have the community to buy into what we're doing, as well as the business community. But we have to engage our students enough to find out what their strengths are, what they enjoy, and what they can bring to the table, and what they can do in the society, referring to H. Cone and Nash counties.
Thank you. Okay, our last question. Jermaine, I think you need to click on it so I can. Okay. Last question. What does winning look like?
I would say it depends upon how you define winning and what your goals are in terms of winning. I think all students are winners, and our district is a winning district. But you have to define what your goals are, what your purpose really is, and how would you ascertain that, and what will you do in terms of how you're gauging that. I think we need to go back again and redefine really what our goals are and what we would like to see Nash County schools do in terms of winning. And define that, then embrace it, and then make it happen.
Winning to me would be getting all those smiling faces, students and teachers, back in our buildings.
I think there was a slogan that was coined some years back, which is what I would define winning: when we have no child that's left behind. Everybody's have the same opportunities to excel to their strength, their God-given ability to do what their talents and resources are.
We have a response in the chat. Preparation, opportunity, and individual success for our students is winning. So success being the needs and aspirations of the individuals being met. Anyone else? What does winning look like? Okay, so I really appreciate you all playing along and and sharing some of your answers with me. Again, if you want to reflect on the questions and send me the responses, you can do that as well. We'll be hosting some open community meetings where the community will be able to join a Zoom link and kind of respond to some of these. And I'll be putting all of the focus group data together and sharing it back with you, as well. So thank you. And again, this was for information only.
Thank you, Dr. Catalano. With that said, the Hopes and Dreams focus groups, we're going to turn next to our athletic update with Ms. Angie Miller.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to share a few of our current updates with athletics for information. We'll start with the middle school athletics update. And keep in mind, this has been modified. We do meet bi-weekly and try to come up with a plan that'll meet the needs of us when we are going back to school. So at this time, our plan, due to the fact that we are in a Plan B to begin within our county on March the 22nd. Our spring break is April the 5th through the 9th. So we would like to begin our tryouts, which will be April the 12th. This will allow for a 1 week period with both groups A and B to come back into the school, work with the school on what our plan is for school entry. And as it relates to athletics, we do have the same process that starts all over again in the afternoons. So that gives them that 2 weeks and then a tryout period and competition beginning the week of the 19th through May the 14th. The sports that this will include are all outdoor activities such as baseball, softball, boys tennis, girls soccer, boys cross country, and girls cross country. I did provide a link on our agenda where you would be able to see what I was just referencing with middle school updates as it relates to athletics. That will meet all of the local guidelines as well as the state guidelines. And we do meet all of the High School Athletic Association, which is DHHS guidelines as well. I'll then move into an update as it relates to high school athletics. At this time, we have been participating in athletics. We do meet all of the state requirements, our local requirements, and DHHS. We are using the facilities. We go through our regular cleaning process. Our coaches are making modifications and doing their own cleaning process. We do a separate check-in with them, and we can shut down at any point in time, and we have been doing so with any issues. As you guys had discussed with our elementary education, if we have multiple quarantines or multiple exposures, we shut the whole team down. We have been keeping very small groups and or pods. We did restrict all non-conference play. Our justification for that was keeping the metrics in mind as we look at the different local districts. We did not travel outside of our local area. If we had completed several of the non-conference activities, it would have been several districts over where metrics were much higher. So that kept us working out on a daily basis and kept our pods small as well, and we could track and control as well as modify any equipment or cleaning processes as needed. We are limited at this time or have no spectators at some of our events. That is to keep exposure to a minimum. And we do continue to modify weekly and or bi-weekly. We also have first responders at each of our events, practice, and our events. We also have a licensed athletic trainer that has been funded through several of our local resources, and they do have additional duties and protocols that are in place to help us with those restrictions. On the link that I did provide, it does share with you the sports per the High School Athletic Association guidelines, when they begin, when they end, and the state competitions. Many of them have already concluded. We've had state competitors at each of the events across our district, and it shows that our next regular season will be ending around February the 19th, and state competitions go into March. So the final, we could be playing up until the end of June. And again, we make those modifications on a school by school or team by team basis if needed. And I was sharing that for information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Our next person in the lineup is Ms. Sheila Wallace for Accurate Agency Contact.
Good evening, board members. I would like to present to you 2 contracts for your approval. And the contracts are for 2 partners, 2 community partners. They are for federal funding due to the emergency funding underneath the iCares Act. They're for after-school programs, K through 8 participating schools. We will partner with the Y and the Boys and Girls Club. The Y supports elementary schools, Hubbard, D.S. Johnson, Fairview, and Baskerville. The Boys and Girls Club will support the middle schools, Rocky Mount Middle, Parker Middle, Edwards Middle, and Nash Central Middle. This grant is designed to support the academic gaps for identified at-risk students due to loss of instructional time. Each grant is over the threshold where it does require board approval. They are for $136,783.27. They will begin in March and will run through December 30th, 2021. The Y and the Boys and Girls Club will sponsor all employees. We will work with them closely as well as the school leaders to identify the population that will be served. and to provide resources so that it's aligned to the instructional curriculum that we provide on a daily basis. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Will these students meet at the Y and meet at the Boys and Girls Club? Where would they be meeting?
Great question. They will have space reserved at each of the schools that I mentioned, and transportation will be provided to get the students home.
How many students will be enrolled at each location?
Up to 100. You have 50 students on week A and 50 students on week B.
I guess these will be employees that work at the Y already and employees from the Boys and Girls Club. Are they going to hire additional help? Would
They
you know that?
will, they're recruiting right now in the schools to hire some of the school employees to help run the program as well. The Boys and Girls Club is, as well as the Y.
Of those 50 students, do we have students at Johnson and Fairview and Baskerville participating in the program at the Y?
I'm not sure I understand your question, Ms. Bullock.
With the Y in part of this, do we have students participating in the Y's program, or are they a part of the Boys and Girls Club program?
These are students from the respective schools that were mentioned. It could potentially be students that are already a Boys and Girls Club member or a Y member. But again, the principal and their leadership team will work with the designated point of contact for the partners to determine which students will participate.
And how do we determine which students participate in either program?
Well, the Y serves K through 5. The Boys and Girls Club will serve 6 through 8. With the grant,
completely.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I got you.
We were given criteria to look at for the at-risk population that we would be identified by the principals.
All right, thank you.
So how many hours per day will the students be at these two locations?
3 hours, up to 3.
Will they go in the afternoons after lunch or the mornings? Will they be fed?
Yes, snacks will be provided. We have taken care of that with child nutrition, and it will begin after their school day ends.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Wallace, for your leadership.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Wallace? Seeing that this is an action item, we need to I need a motion from the committee members. Let me just reiterate who's on the committee to take to the full board. And those folks that serve in this committee is Mr. Lamb, Mr. Dunton, Ms. S. Bullock, and Ms. D. Chavis. So I need a motion from one of those committee members to take this to the full board.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion that we adopt the iCares agency contract.
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
Good to see you, Ms. Chavis. Good to see you, Ms. Chavis.
Thank you.
It's been moved by Mr. Lamb, second by Mr. Chavis. So we take this to the full board for approval. Any other questions or discussions?
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Bullock.
And it's a technicality.
Okay.
Should this be a motion or a recommendation to take to the full board?
A recommendation to take to the full board.
Thank you.
It's been moved and properly seconds. Any other questions or discussions? Hearing none, if I can get a vote. Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mr. Dunton?
Yes.
Ms. S. Bullock?
Yes.
Ms. Chavis?
Yes.
And Mr. Sharp, yes, it's unanimous consent to take it to the full board. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wallace, for your leadership in that, as Mr. Silver stated. Next, we will begin beginners teachers by Ms. Privet.
Mr. Lamb, Mr. Sharp, excuse me, were you supposed to ask me, am I in agreement with that? I didn't hear my name.
Well, you're not on that board. You're not serving on that committee.
Got you. Thank you kindly.
Yes, sir.
Okay. For the beginning teachers plan, I am presenting it on the behalf of Ms. Privet today. The beginning teacher plan, it is a state requirement and must be approved annually by the board. The district's beginning teacher plan, we were missing some critical information in order to receive state approval. The following information had to be added to our current plan. We had to ensure that all teachers, principals, and peer evaluators complete training on the process. We also had to ensure that during the first 2 weeks of a teacher's first day of work every school year, the teacher would receive a rubric for evaluating North Carolina teachers, the evaluation policy, and the schedule for completing all components of the evaluation process. We had to ensure that there were monitored growth plans and direct growth plans to be implemented when necessitated by ratings. We also had to ensure that for our beginning teachers 1 and our beginning teachers 2, at least 2 observations had to be conducted in the first semester of the school year. And if practicable, at least one of those observations shall be within the first grading period. And lastly, we had to ensure that the BT1s and the beginning teacher 2s, at least one of the 3 annual administrative observations must be conducted by the principal. We have inserted all of the recommendations that had to be included for approval by the state personnel in our beginning teacher support program plan. We have received approval by our consultant on the state level, and I am requesting approval from the board.
We have to take it to the.
Are there any
Alrighty.
questions?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the beginning teacher plan as presented.
It's been moved by Mr. Lamb. Can I get a second?
Second.
So it's been moved by Mr. Lamb, seconded by Ms. Tavis, that we bring this recommendation to the full board for the beginning teacher plan. Any other questions or discussions? Hearing none, let's go through a vote. Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp, yes. Mr. Dunton,
Yes.
Ms. S. Bullock,
Yes.
and Ms. D. Chavis.
Yes.
We have a full unanimous support of that. So thank you again, Ms. Wallace, for that report. Our next item on the agenda is the 2021 budget amendment, and that will be done by Ms. Joy Carey.
Good evening. I'm presenting tonight the amendments for state and for federal. We have several allotments that were received for state, and this will be the 4th amendment that you will be approving for this fiscal year. And this is for the allotment revisions from allotment 29, 30, 31, 35, 37, and 38. And this is presented as of January 22nd, we had received for state up to allotment number 38. And this is changing every Friday. We get allotment revisions. Sometimes it impacts ours, sometimes it does not. The second amendment is for federal, and that's the second amendment for federal. And it's revision number 30, in revision number 30 for PRC 168. So we are presenting the amendments for approval tonight to adjust our budget to the current balances or that the state has on record.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jarrett. Ms. Jarrett has a presentation. I need a recommendation to take this to the full board.
So moved.
It's second. Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Donovan Chavis, second by Mr. Franklin Lamb. Any questions or discussions? Hearing none, I call for a roll vote. Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp, yes. Mr. Dunton,
Yes.
Ms. S. Bullock,
Yes.
Ms. Davis, Ms. Chavis.
Yes.
Thank you, folks. I really appreciate that. Our next thing, item number 7, is the budget for action report by Ms. Joyce Garrett as well.
The next report is a report of the budget to actuals for state, local, federal, and fund capital outlay and Fund 8, local restricted by purpose code. And this is for your information. Any questions? Hopefully you've had a chance to look over it. As we are in the beginning today, the 8th month of this fiscal year, we're starting to look at year end, looking at where we are and planning accordingly so that we end with a knowing we have a positive fund balance.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment, Ms. Jarrett.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you and your staff for the hard work that you put forth inside the budget. What was really appreciative is how you have streamlined this. So it makes it very simplistic to read and understand. So with that said, I would say thank you. Any other board members having comments? Hearing none, we'll move to the fire alarm updates at Southern Nash High School by Mr. Shannon Davis.
Good evening. I'm here to present the Southern Nash High School fire alarm upgrade. We had a pre-bid meeting on December 17th at Southern Nash High for the replacement of the antiquated fire alarm system. Williams Fire Sprinkler and Austin Security Incorporated submitted bids shown on the attached bid document. Austin Security submitted a low bid of $99,973.96, asking for approval to proceed with this contract.
So moved.
Who's that?
Reggie.
Mr. Silver, you're not a part of this board, so I need a motion from someone who's on the committee. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was dozing.
That's okay.
I make a motion.
Go ahead, Franklin.
I make a motion to approve the fire alarm update at Southern Nash High School as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Lamb, probably second by Ms. Donna Chavis. Any question or discussion? Did I hear someone? Hearing none, let's call for a roll vote. Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp? Yes. Mr. Dunton?
Yeah.
Ms. S. Bullock?
Yes.
Ms. D. Chavis?
Yes.
Thank you very much. With that said, it brings us to the last item for time adjournment.
Mr. Sharp, you're gonna have, excuse me, but the budget, the actual report should be an action item. You're gonna have to
Which,
We-
present that to the main board tonight. Just make a recommendation to present it to the main board.
That's what we're doing.
I would just do the action items are the only ones you're gonna be voting on. We can mention in the board that the information item like hopes and dreams and that we did, but no.
The budget to actual hasn't paid for approval next week.
please speak up.
The budget to actual has an approval in Assembly.
Okay, it's just not on this, right?
I think Ms. Jarrett said it's an information item, but it's an action item. So you're gonna need to just vote on that tonight.
So that's item number 7. No, that's an action. She's got that for an action.
Yes, 7.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. So there is an action item for it. I'm sorry, we overlooked that. So if we made colleagues who can go back up to verse. Y'all got me praying a whole lot. That's why I'm on the verse. Okay, so we go up to action item number 7. We need a motion to bring a recommendation to bring it to the full board, item number 7, the budget versus budget to actual report. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we bring the budget to actual reports as presented by Ms. Garrett.
Second,
It's been moved by Mr. Lamb, seconded by Mrs. Donna Tavis. Question or discussions? Hearing none, call roll vote to Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp, yes, Mr. Dutton,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. S. Bullock,
Yes.
and Ms. D. Tavis.
yes.
Okay, it's been probably approved unanimous consent. So with that said, Dr. Ellis, I think that covers all that. Let me just say this before we move on with this one. I really appreciate all your support that at some point in time from this group, every one of these action items, there was consent to have a unanimous vote to approve. So I appreciate all the hard work that Dr. Ellis Union staff has done, and for the board members reviewing this and coming prepared to engage in discussion. So with that said, if there's no other further action that will hold this section, I adjourn this section. I would release it back to Mr. Lamb, the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. At this time, I will, well, we've still got 10 minutes. Any other? Our next meeting starts in 10 minutes. That will be Ms. Washington, Student Support Service and Operations Committee meeting agenda.